10 years ago today, I was fired and lost everything for the first time in my life. One decision made in survival mode cost me everything. I had no idea that I operated from survival mode. I had no idea that I was cracking under pressure because I'd spent so much of my life perfecting what I look like on the outside, while slowly and quietly unraveling on the inside. Hi, I'm Violet Rainwater, and I spent almost 2 decades in the financial service industry as a top producer. My first year in the business, I fell in love with annuities and I became rookie of the year in just 9 months of production, finishing first in the company. And I continued to be a top producer. And a lot of it was just because I was really good at building systems and processes to work my book of business. Like I actually worked my book of business and I had a passion for sales. And that's what made me the sales prodigy that I was from 25 years old. But being in sales in a cutthroat industry on 100% commission, where I heard daily, you're only as good as your last month, you're just a number, you can be replaced. I learned that it was all about external things, my numbers, my calls, my dials. And so my mode of operation was just to outdial the brokers beside me. I just worked more hours. I worked on weekends. And in my, 17-year career, I never had a customer complaint. I never had anything on my license where I harmed a customer, lied, nothing. And I took a lot of pride into that. But 10 years ago, as I was walking into December, I didn't have the numbers that I normally walk in with. And there was tremendous stress and pressure because I was the primary breadwinner. And my overhead just to feed my family and pay my bills was $12,000 a month net. And I had been able to handle that. But as I was walking into it, I could feel the anxiety growing within me. And I made one choice from the perspective of just wanting to feed my kids, wanting to make money, focus on sales and making money. And that choice was I asked my assistant to complete 5 videos on my behalf that were part of my continuing ed. Now, looking back at that choice, I didn't even think about it. I didn't even process the consequences, nor did I know what the consequences would be. Where I maybe thought it was frowned upon, I definitely did not think I could destroy my entire career. And had I given it more thought, I would have made a different choice because it would have taken me 15 minutes of my life. But that one decision made in survival mode when I was just focused on making money and triggered because I was walking into a month with no revenue coming in, no GDC coming in, I made that choice and it ended up costing me my entire career. I was fired within 24 hours, which was 10 years ago today. And I had a FINRA investigation. I had to go and sit with FINRA for 8 hours. And as terrifying as it was, it actually ended up being quite a blessing because the two ladies that interviewed me, they saw exactly what happened. I thought I could handle it, but I was cracking under pressure and I made a wrong choice. I was in over my head. I couldn't handle it. I was unraveling. I was living in survival mode, never able to rest, never giving myself even one breath to just rest and enjoy the achievements that I made. I didn't know how to do that. I only knew how to keep going, keep pushing, keep striving, keep hustling. And it was in that experience that I got a mark on my license and I just lost everything. I lost my income. I lost my 401k. I lost my home. I lost all my designer purses, everything. And I even had to move in with my parents at 41 years old with my family, with my 3 kids. And it seemed at the time as the biggest mistake in my life. And I had a really hard time accepting, much less forgiving myself for making that kind of choice. I could not believe that this was my new reality. But here's what also happened. As I was no longer making money for the first time in my adult life, I realized that my sense of self, my self worth, was 100% tied to the money that I made. And I would have never been able to see that. And that was the effect. It wasn't even the cause. But had I not seen it, I would have never woken up to an operating system that was completely flawed. See, it was that experience of losing everything and having my life shatter in a million pieces. It was in those broken pieces that I discovered a truth that I just would never have been able to see unless I was brought down to my knees the way that I was. And that is that my early wiring set me up for survival mode. From the moment I took my first breath, because of my lineage, I was destined for a life stuck in survival mode. And then you put the immigration and the adversity on top of it. And no wonder I lived in survival mode. No wonder perfectionism and people pleasing and workaholism and addiction became the reality that I knew. And even though on the outside, I appeared perfect and that I had it all together, on the inside, it was just a matter of time. Now, I've carried this story. I actually buried this story. I never wanted to share it because I had so much shame about that choice that I made. Didn't just affect me, but my family's livelihood, my kids. I had to rebuild from the ground up. But it was such a blessing at the same time because it's where my unraveling finally started. It was where my unlearning finally began, and where I began piece by piece, layer by layer, diving in to understand what I needed to do to break free of survival mode and how I got to that point in my life. And so today, on this 10-year anniversary, I set myself free. I share this story. This is my truth. I'm a perfectly imperfect human. I made a mistake in survival mode. And yet, here's what I know: the majority of the workplace operates in survival mode as well. So many of us are stuck in these lower mental states because of our wiring. And just like me, we don't have an awareness to it. Now, your leaders, they might think they have a performance issue in the workplace, a morale issue, a sales issue, a laziness issue. It's none of those things. It's the operating system that we were wired with. And we can't out hustle that. We can't outrun that. We can only rewire it. And so for the last decade, it's actually been 2 decades, I just didn't have an awareness to what I was building. I've been working on a framework to bring into the workplace, to bridge the gap. These were the tools that were not given to me. No one ever addressed my wiring and how my brain went into survival mode and what it felt like and the habits and behaviors that followed that were so destructive that I didn't even have an awareness to. I can only imagine the kind of numbers I would have put up, the kind of life I could have had I discovered this truth and this framework and the toolbox that allowed me to rewire and step into my highest, greatest expression. And so today, starting today, I will be sharing more of this framework and this story as I am on a mission to create a movement in the workplace from stuck in survival mode to having the daily tools that are needed to rewire, rebuild, and reclaim our power, our sovereignty, which is the exact thing that I was missing. I did not operate from a place of power. I operated from a place of fear. And you can only go on so long before all of that comes crashing down. And so today I am the creator behind the AI self revolution. And I have an app coming out in 2026 called 1 Year Later that is going to allow you to take this knowledge and actually implement these changes with an app on a daily basis. Thankfully to AI, we can leverage AI for our own personal breakthroughs, and not enough people are talking about that. And so between my story and my framework and my passion for unlocking human potential. My vision is to transform the modern workplace from a place of struggle to a place where people come and create and they thrive and they collaborate and they come together because that's what's possible when you break free of survival mode. Now we're talking about our greatest, highest potential that we're tapping into. This is how we unlock our greatest potential. This is how we be what we came to be by understanding our operating system, having a toolbox to rewire and rebuild that operating system and implementing it into our daily business life. Now, I'm not moving away from sales and AI in sales. That's still very much a big part of my business. But I believe that all growth begins within. And so I wanted to share this, just put the weight down and share my story. I didn't watch the videos. Like I didn't, you got me. I didn't watch the 5 videos. And if I could go back, I'd watch the videos, but I can't. And you know what? I'm glad that I didn't because I would have never made these discoveries. I would have never been able to bring it and share it with you here. And so I'm back, friends. I've been gone for a little while as I've been learning AI and really figuring out what I wanted to contribute in the world and in the workplace. And now that I have the clarity and I have my 1 year later AI clone that I have created that helps me every single step of the way, I want to return that and bring it that those same resources and tools that help me into the workplace. And so if you're still watching, thanks for watching. If you struggle with survival mode symptoms, you might not even know what it is. But if you're stuck, if you know, like there's a calling for something more, I have music within me that I came to share. If you're feeling that, make sure you hit the follow button, like and follow, because I will be sharing with you my stories. So this is just based on my lived experience and the framework that I created that helped me break free, and one that I'm now bringing into the workplace to help you break free because your future self, oh, friends, I'm so excited to share the app with you when it comes out. But your future self holds the key to set you free.